When you think of an AI assistant for software development, what's the first tool that's coming to mind? GitHub Copilot, right? But when we start talking about using GitHub Copilot, there's always one question that pops up. Is the tool really safe? Hey folks, how it's going? My name is Julio Arruda, and today we're going to talk a bit about the security of information using GitHub Copilot. Today, I'd say it's impossible, well, not impossible, that might be pushing it, but it's very difficult for us not to use in a code assistant like GitHub Copilot while development software. I'd argue that's currently essential, especially for the productivity gains. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, one concern is data security. Maybe you using GitHub Copilot just for you in personal projects aren't worrying too much about this. However, companies have a very valid concerns about it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. As expected, GitHub cares about the security of our information. After all, this is necessary for a product like this to exist in the market. If GitHub didn't care and didn't create a series of measures to ensure our safety, the tool wouldn't have been launched. To help us stay informed of this topic, GitHub launched the GitHub Copilot Trust Center, where it's possible to find the necessary information on GitHub Copilot's security issues. An interesting issue that always comes up in the discussion is about the copywriting. Well, because at the end of the day, GitHub Copilot is generating a good portion of our codes. But GitHub doesn't claim the ownership of the generated code. We can relax about it because what GitHub generates, we can use in your projects without problems, okay? That's a very, very good information. Oh, I almost forgot to ask you for like on this video. Go ahead and comment here if you have any doubts about the security on GitHub Copilot. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to receive notifications of the new videos here on the channel. Did you know that GitHub can defend your company in court? That's right. If you are using GitHub Copilot and because of one of the suggestions you face an intellectual property lawsuit, GitHub will defend your company in court. For this, you need to be a business or enterprise customer and have disabled the public code suggestion. This way, GitHub will help your company in a potential intellectual property lawsuit. You can find more information throughout the Microsoft Business and Service Agreement contract, MBSA, and the individual Microsoft product terms. In this contract, you have more details about this feature. With this in mind, GitHub Copilot has some of safeguards to avoid this type of problems, like what I mentioned before. The option to disable public code suggestion, for example, for this work, GitHub created filters to suppress public code suggestion. This option can be enabled or disabled at the account administrator. When this option is set to block, what happens is quite interesting because GitHub compared the code suggestion with the public repository database, but it does in blocks of about 105 characters. If any match is found, we don't even receive that suggestion, thus avoiding potential intellectual property issue. It's a very, very important feature for us and for our companies. Another important issue is about the use of our data. After all, does GitHub save your code? Does it use our code to train GitHub Copilot? It's a very, very important question. The answer is no. Both GitHub Copilot Business and Enterprise do not access your source code, except to generate code suggestions for you in the form of a prompt, along with your question or request. This prompt is transmitted securely to GitHub, and when the suggestion is generated, these details are discarded to maintaining the security of our data. These are very, very important for the compliance of the companies we're working for. A point worth mentioning is that GitHub Copilot, like any other generative AI tool, doesn't work like a magic, meaning there's no guarantee that the generated suggestion doesn't contain some bugs or other problems. Therefore, it's ideal that the developer analyzes the returned code and makes adjustments if necessary. It's also important to always scan your coding using a specialized tool. So, as we've seen in today's video, using GitHub Copilot in your company can be really, really interesting and, above all, quite safe. Besides the fact of the GitHub doesn't hold copyright over the generated code and don't save my private data. I'm bringing more videos about GitHub Copilot, so make sure to follow the channel, and that's for today. But before you go, leave in the comments if you already knew this information about GitHub Copilot, or if you have more relevant information to help and complement this. See you in next video. Bye bye.